In the Cold War, the world prepared for destruction. Missiles stood ready. Bombers waited on runways. Nations lived under the shadow of nuclear war, but the most powerful weapon of that era was never fired. In 1983, the United States announced a new defense system, not on land, not at sea, but in space. It was called the Strategic Defense Initiative, a plan to intercept nuclear missiles before they could reach American soil. To many, it sounded impossible, too expensive, too futuristic, too ambitious. But to the Soviet Union, it sounded terrifying. For decades, nuclear deterrence depended on balance. Both sides knew that any attack would be answered with total destruction, but a defensive shield in space threatened to break that balance. If American cities could be protected, then the Soviet arsenal would lose its power. And that idea alone changed everything. The announcement sent shock waves through Moscow. Soviet leadership feared falling behind in a race they could not afford. They didn't know if the system truly worked. They didn't know if it ever would. But they couldn't afford to ignore it. Behind closed doors, Soviet planners made a decision. They would try to match it. They would try to compete. What followed was a silent race. Factories were pushed beyond their limits. Resources were diverted. Scientists were pressured to deliver breakthroughs that simply weren't ready. Billions were spent chasing a technology that demanded an economy stronger than theirs. All while the United States watched. The real power of the program was not in lasers or satellites. It was in uncertainty. Every ruble spent trying to catch up was a ruble not spent fixing roads, feeding citizens, or stabilizing an already fragile system. The pressure mounted. The cracks widened. The Soviet economy, already strained, began to bend under the weight. And slowly, the illusion collapsed. The Strategic Defense Initiative did not need to be completed. It did not need to be perfect, because its mission was never purely technological. It was psychological, economic, strategic. The most expensive war the Soviet Union ever fought was one that never happened. No missiles were launched, no cities burned, yet the cost was devastating. The Cold War did not end that day, but the balance shifted. The United States had forced its adversary into a battle of endurance it could not win, because sometimes victory is not about firepower. It's about making the enemy spend everything trying to keep up, and while the world feared a war from the sky, America was already winning without firing a single shot. Wars are won in silence. Eyes only history.